Okay, second grade, we're gonna look at number 8 today on quarter 2 sheet, mix the primary colors and create the secondary colors to use in a work of art. Secondary colors are orange, green, and purple. So you need to start with the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, which you should already know. And you need to take those and mix the secondary colors. So take red and yellow, you'll be mixing orange. Take yellow and blue, you'll be making green. Blue and red will make your violet or your purple. If you need a color wheel, there's one by the door. You can always look at that. And these small ones are also found in the painting area, so you can borrow one from there if you need it. You will need to decide what it is you're going to paint a picture of. And you can see that I have already prepared my paper with my drawing. I decided to do this kind of like cute little fuzzy monster. I've collected my water and my brush and towel, and I also have the paints that you're going to need to use. So these have the primary colors already in them. You will mix on your paper. So we're gonna start with our lightest color. And why do we start with our lightest color? Because we're gonna try to keep our water as light as possible for as long as possible so we don't have dirty water to clean all of our stuff out in. Okay, then you're going to decide what you're going to actually make with each of these secondary colors. What do you want that's going to be orange? What do you want that's going to be green? What do you want on your picture to be violet? All right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to actually make my eyes orange on my little monster. So I'm going to very carefully, you'll notice, use the flat edge of the brush to go around the edge of the eyes. I'm just going to do one at a time because if this starts to dry too much, I will not be able to mix the colors at all. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this in. Then I will wash my brush out before I dip into another color. If I'm using the same color, I don't have to wash my brush. But once I'm done with the yellow and I need my red, and red is a very strong color, so you don't want very much of it to start out with, or otherwise it'll just go mostly to red. So I'm just going to dip the very tip of my brush in. There's not a whole lot on there. And I'll mix it right on top of this yellow. I'm going to go ahead and do that, making sure to cover up all of the yellow. Now that that's mixed, you can see it's made an orange color. I'm just going to go back and touch up the edges, try to make a nice smooth line there. And then I'll go on to my next eye. Now, if it looks too red because you get too much of the darker color, you may have to go back and put more yellow on top. All right, I've made my first secondary color. The next one is green, and so to make green, what two colors do you use? If you said yellow and blue, that is correct. So again, start with the lightest color out of those two, yellow and blue. Which one's the lighter color? Yellow, okay? And so you're going to use your yellow, and I'm going to make him a green monster. Before this dries, I'm going to go ahead and put some blue on it so I can get it to turn green. Because if I paint the whole thing yellow first, by the time I get back up here, it's probably going to be mostly dry. So I'm going to do this kind of in little sections or little areas at a time. So hopefully I can get it all painted green and not drying on me too quickly. Just remember to wash and dry your brush when you need to go and switch colors on your brush. I'm going to have to be real careful around the teeth. Remember to keep your seat sheet underneath of this because you notice I'm not worried about going off the edge of the paper. If it gets on my seat sheet, that's okay. A little paint on my seat sheet's not going to hurt. All right, as I finish up this little bit of the monster's face here, I'm just going back and kind of trying to smooth out any areas where it looks like I kind of messed up or didn't get it quite smoothed out real well yet. Trying to make sure I got all my yellow fairly well covered up and it's mostly green. There's a little bit right here I'm trying to cover up still. Okay, now keep in mind you always need to wash your brush out really well because your yellow is not going to stay yellow if you don't, and you contaminate it with another color. There's really no way, or no good way anyway, to get that like red or blue or whatever you still had on your brush in there. So really use your paper towel and your bowl of water to scrub that brush out, dry it, make sure that you don't dip your brush clear into the paint and it's clear up on the handle. We want to keep it off of this gold shiny part, the danger zone, where we don't want paint on it, so we don't get it on our hands either, okay? All right, so when you're making violet or purple, what two colors do we use? Red and blue. If you said red and blue, you are correct. Put red on first, and then add your blue on top of that. Gently scrub, do not do too vigorously because you'll be splashing water everywhere. Remember, you have to work fairly quickly and you don't want to paint too slowly or this will start to dry and then you will not be able to get your colors to mix at all. They'll just be stuck with a red and it'll just look like you painted blue over the top of it. Also, keep in mind, if you paint over your name, I'm not going to be able to see it. So I'm just going to make sure that I put kind of a little box around my name. All right, I've decided I am going to do those little hairs up there green, but in order to not mix into my purple that I just painted, because it's still wet, I'm going to kind of mix right here on my paper some more green, and then I'm going to kind of pull it and drag it up into those hairs. So that is what I'm doing. All right, now I'm gonna put this on the drying rack attached to my seat sheet, put it on the color of rack shelf that you sit at, that matches your table, remember. Make sure when you're putting your paints away, you get the lids clicked back on. All right, I just took this off of the drying rack, and so I'm ready now to kind of finish this up. I was gonna take my marker and go around and kind of trace around the edges where I had drawn with pencil and finish this up. So basically, when you are done with your painting, make sure you've cleaned up your brushes and all of your paint supplies, washed out very well with soap and water your brush, and rinsed out your bowl and so on. But when you put this away, it's still wet. So you gotta let it dry overnight before you can go back and start adding on the tracing, because obviously this won't draw on wet paint well. And even if it did, it would dry on the tip of the marker, which would then ruin it. So it would not work anymore. Anyway, I'm going to finish this up and then I'll show you the final product. All right, I am finished with the outlining, and here you can now see my little monster is all finished up. I've used the primary colors to make the secondary colors orange, green, and purple. Remember that you do not have to make a monster like I did. You can make whatever you want. You just have to use those three colors. Here's another example of what I've done in the past, where we've done orange pumpkins, green grass, and a purple sky. And then when it was dry, what we did was we actually went back and put on top of the paint some shading with like oil pastels. So we drew a little bit of red on the lines and kind of rubbed it with our finger to smear it in. Same thing up here, we put some white to kind of lighten it with the glistening of the star and moonlight. Put a little shadow on the side of the stem here with some black, just kind of rubbed that on. Don't think I remember to do it there, but and a little shadow under the pumpkin. So there's just another example of how you could create your secondary colors on a different project.